after 2 consecutive losses to Alexander Usyk. Boxing legend Roy Jones Jr. thinks Anthony Joshua should hang back for a bit instead of fighting Deontay Wilder in 2023. Roy also thinks Joshua should drop the other coaching options and work with him to dive right back into the deep end again. Should the Watford powerhouse fight Deontay, or should he listen to Jones and hire him as a coach? Keep watching for all this and more. First up, in search of a new lead, Anthony Joshua was dominating the boxing world before losing 2 consecutive fights to the former Ukrainian heavyweight champion Alexander Usyk. The 33-year-old is looking to turn things around, and to do that, he wants to dive right back into the deep end by taking on the hard-hitting Deontay Wilder. The fight hasn't been confirmed yet, but judging from what we've heard so far, it looks like the two titans will square off sometime in 2023. Joshua is still on the lookout for a new coach though. He's been touring the States and was even pictured working out alongside renowned trainers Virgil Hunter and Derek James. And while we'd really like to see him bounce back and take on the phenomenal Deontay Wilder, boxing legend Roy Jones Jr. thinks he needs to rebuild his confidence. Jones is also willing to step up and coach Joshua to help him make some much-needed adjustments to dive back into boxing. We haven't heard anything from Anthony or his team yet, and if we're being honest, we don't even think they're considering taking up his offer at this point. But if we're talking about his suggestion of not fighting Wilder right now, he couldn't be more right. Joshua seriously needs to chill for a bit and regain his confidence before he goes up against a puncher like Deontay. Just one mistake inside the ring and he'll fold him with an absolutely brutal punch to end the fight and put him 3 down. Now, if you find someone who isn't quite the puncher that Wilder is, get yourself back and back to winning. We couldn't agree more. Next, he's basically blocking the fight. If Anthony decides to sign either Virgil or Derek as a coach, then the possibility of him fighting Wilder in 2023 is still on. But if he goes with Roy, then he better forget about fighting Wilder, at least for a couple of fights before he's back on his winning ways. And this isn't because Deontay is unbeatable, it's because Joshua isn't in the right headspace. We get what he's trying to do here though. He wants to be back on top as soon as possible, and for that, he needs to take out a big name. The 2 consecutive losses against Alexander are probably playing a role in the back of his head as well, and that's exactly why he needs someone like Roy to talk him out of it. It's totally okay to be down and fight guys who aren't heavy punchers like Wilder, to get accustomed to the ring again. Or wait, let's phrase that better. Get accustomed to winning again. But what makes Jones so sure he can prepare Joshua for Wilder in a couple of fights? Well, he actually has a surprisingly brilliant plan to rebuild him. He'd get him ready to take on guys who don't punch as hard as Deontay, and when he finally finds his mojo again, all he'll need are a couple of adjustments to get in the ring with the Bronze Bomber. Or in simple words, Roy is trying to make him mistake-proof, because like we said earlier, one mistake against Deontay and he'll send you to the Shadow Realm. Moving on, there is some mutual interest. Scratch what we said about Joshua and his team not being interested in bringing Roy on board. Jones recently confirmed that he held talks with Anthony about coaching him for his next fights, and from the initial reactions, it looks like the 33-year-old is actually interested in the offer. And just like we've been telling you about the boxing legend's plan for the Watford powerhouse, he's even laid it down for Joshua so there's no confusion. He made it clear that he wouldn't let him fight Wilder for at least 2 fights until he falls back to his winning ways. Anthony didn't really have a lot to say about it because, well, Roy is a 4-time world champion boxer. All that experience probably accounts for something, right? Again, the 33-year-old doesn't really have a verdict as to who he's going to choose. But if we're talking about overall synergy in the gym, he seems to have a lot with Roy. They've been getting along fairly well during training sessions, and since everything is crystal clear, at least both parties know what to expect if they were to reach an agreement. But yeah, Deontay, Fury, and Oleg all off the table. There's no way he's going to be fighting them under Roy's command. And while there's some mutual interest in a mentor-student partnership, JR is the boss, and Joshua will have to play by his rules if he wants to climb back to the top. Oh, and did you know Roy already has 2 opponents planned for him? He hasn't named them yet, but we're super curious now. Now, for Eddie Hearn weighing in on AJ's return. Boxing promoter Eddie Hearn also weighed in on Joshua's return to professional boxing and gave us some insights about his next fight inside the ring. Like the rest of the gang, Hearn also thinks AJ needs to relax for a bit before he decides to take on the big boys. And since he's a promoter himself, he said Anthony still has to add a coach to his camp. And until that's done, there's no way they can schedule a fight. The other side needs to know who's in his camp so they can prepare accordingly. Eddie also got a little personal and talked about how he's always liked AJ as a human and still believes he can have a legendary title run to become a 3-time world boxing champion. In fact, forget about having a championship run. The boxing promoter thinks his next appearance inside the ring will be the start of a new chapter in his career, possibly taking him to new heights. Plus, he didn't exactly agree with Roy, but has a similar approach to how AJ AJ should return to boxing. Instead of trying to book a fight with the Sharks, he should go at least 2 to 3 fights to rebuild himself and gain confidence. He needs to be 100% before dancing with someone like Tyson Fury or Wilder, because those guys can seriously hurt him if he's not on their level. Getting the correct team behind him and picking the right coach is crucial to his third championship run. Following up, it's much more than just confidence. Confidence is one thing, but self-belief is a whole different ballgame. Former boxing champion Johnny Nelson doesn't think he should start off with easier fights before moving to the big guns. In fact, he isn't even on the idea of AJ fighting at all. He actually thinks the 33-year-old should take the entire year off and just reset, because it's pretty obvious he's still broken after the losses to Alexander. You're probably wondering, what's that going to do for his confidence? He's not even fighting, and the only way he can return is if he actually fights. But just hold on a second. Nelson has a point here. Anthony doesn't just need to rebuild his confidence or something. He needs a hard reset. He needs to sit at home and recover, and most importantly, he needs to learn to be himself again. After losing the second fight to Usyk, AJ did talk about taking some time away from the game, and as soon as Johnny heard that, he said he needs to take time. But if he's not fighting, then what should he do? Just spend time in the gym and keep training? Well, something like that, but not exactly. Nelson thinks AJ should hit different gyms, train with different people, try different coaches, and just keep switching things up until he finally feels right. Believe it or not, Joshua was actually so broken that he actually hinted at retirement, but we're glad he's still looking to go out in style with possibly a third title as well. Up next, listen to what the people are saying. What's funny is the 33-year-old actually said he wouldn't be broken after the loss to Alexander, but look where that's gotten him. He's frustrated right now, and if you ask us, we think he just needs to listen to what everyone is saying. When you have guys like Roy Jones, Johnny Nelson, and Eddie Hearn saying he should take a break and sit back for a bit, maybe that's exactly what he needs to do. He needs to listen to these guys because they've been through this stuff. And when you look at how Joshua has been boxing since he was 18 years old, he really needs this. Maybe if he took a break for a year, worked with someone like Jones, and just spent a lot of time at different gyms, going through different drills, and getting comfortable again, it would be much better for his career. Think of it as spending time with the family or something. Don't stress about trying to make a comeback as soon as possible. Just take the time off and enjoy it. Try to get back in rhythm. The last thing he should be doing at this point is forcing things to come together. And last but not least, what if he decides to fight Wilder or Fury? Joshua is a really cool guy. When he's not fighting inside the ring, he's an absolute gentleman, but that doesn't mean he's a really rigid guy. He's super disciplined, and in some cases, AJ tends to go on this streak when he doesn't listen to anyone and does exactly what he wants. What if he ignores everyone and decides to fight Wilder or Fury? Then what? Well, we don't want to be the bearers of bad news, but he'd better be prepared to get his head smashed in. And with that, that's it from our side, folks. So what you think? Who should Anthony add to his team? And is everyone right about him needing a break? Let us know in the comments below. Remember, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel for more interesting content in the future. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.